I'm not a doctor. Just an idiot with a degree in the arts here to talk about one of the best TV shows on television, Scrubs. If you need a heartfelt comedy to get you through these depressing times of, everything, sit on back and enjoy some Scrubs with your friendly neighborhood idiot. Growing up, Futurama was one of the shows that filled the void for this lonely kid without many friends around him. One day, I lost the TV remote and didn't have the energy to get up and change the channel. Ew, I thought. I never watched anything live action at the time. Cartoons are bust, baby. As I sat there and watched, I never would have expected a show about doctors to break my heart for a network called Comedy Central. I was doing a whole lot more crying than laughing, and this is why I fell in love with Scrubs. Our pilot episode is primarily introducing our main characters, aptly named My First Day. This is our lovable dork JD's first day working at Sacred Heart Hospital. He's a nervous kid, anxious, and needs the nurses to give his patients the shots he's supposed to be doing, which would get him fired if he were caught. A word of advice given by Dr. Cox. When JD has to perform an operation, his nerves makes him far too slow, often catching a stray from Dr. Cox. The newbie's incompetence is obvious as he makes Nurse Carla take over for him. Yeah, this Cox is a bit of a dick. JD acts like a timid baby who needs his hand held every step of the way, which is why Carla aptly calls him Bambi, because while his lack of confidence is normal for an up-and-coming doctor, his fortitude despite self-doubt is kind of endearing to her. She is the calm to his insecurities by being the voice of reason for him. But his nerves go unsoothed when he tries to make conversation with the janitor who meets the small talk for friendship only with hostility. JD says maybe the door is stuck because there's a penny lodged inside, only to find out there actually was a penny inside by the end of the episode, setting up a show-long rivalry between John Dorian and the sly janitor. But it's not all bad at Sacred Heart. For one, the chief of medicine, Kelso, has been giving him advice on what to do when he's stumped. What a good guy he is. Not only that, but JD gets to be with his best buddy growing up, Turk. Turk is the flirtatious crazy to JD's playful stupidity, a lifelong bromance to survive the ages. He contrasts JD's soft-spokenness with an outburst of confidence. Turk is JD's rock. He needs him, wants him to move in so he doesn't feel so alone, so the pressure of being a doctor doesn't crush him. But Turk, he's not moving in. He wants some space for this new life of theirs. JD's too much of a people pleaser to say anything about how he's hurting, about how he doesn't know how he's going to be able to press on without him. Jealousy brews a bitter taste in JD's mouth as Turk develops a new friendship with the jockey Todd. Feeling insecure that he's too much of a nerd to be as fun as Todd is, the voice in his head tells him he's losing his best buddy and needs to just find something, anything to keep his sanity intact. The stress of his first few days are incredibly intense, but the only thing keeping him sane is having a big crush on the attractive new doctor, Elliot, coyly giving her an answer during rounds, leading to his invitation for a date, which she humors despite trying to inform him. She knew the answer. While his help was appreciated, it was a little unwarranted for her. That should help with his low confidence, getting a date with a hot blonde doctor. With suave JD shooting his shot was a brick. When it came time for her to return the favor during rounds, she tells him she doesn't know the answer, only to steal his thunder and answer victoriously after JD makes an idiot out of himself. When the stress is about to get him to collapse, he makes a break for it and hides in a closet. And there she is. Why? Why would Elliot make a fool out of him in front of everybody? If she could do that to him, was agreeing to the date one of her tricks too? She tells him why, that she's not impressed. She knows what he's after. She's not blind to her beauty, he just wants her body. JD may be a klutz, but he has his self-respect, so he cancels the date, causing her to slowly edge towards him, bidding him to take her right here, right now. Her suspicions are confirmed as he begins to lean into her invitation, giving her every reason to call him out on being so disgusting. She was right, he was wrong. His date was insincere, so, he just wanted a warm body to her. The next scene opens up with Carla taking her chance to get a peek at Turk's nice body. With what happened moments ago with Elliot, seeing the motherly figure supporting him with his naked best friend must have broken his confidence. He runs into Elliot as she snivels at her, subtly calling her a whore in front of all the nurses. But Carla isn't having none of that nonsense. She's a grown-ass woman with grown-ass desires. She's been busting her ass at the this hospital for ages, and she won't stand being shamed for wanting to feel beautiful and needing a moment of release from the intense work of being a nurse. With a mouth like hers, does Elliot even know her name? Because she's gonna have to learn to put some respect on Carla.
I spend every second of my life either here or taking care of my mom. So yeah, maybe I needed a little closeness. And my thong? I happen to think it makes my ass look good, and some days I need to feel good about something around here, and you judge me?
At the very least, she's not a backstabber. Word gets around fast in this hospital. I didn't consider this when I first watched this scene, but sitting with it and writing this script, I couldn't help but notice Elliot may be ashamed of physical intimacy. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm reaching. She is a conventionally attractive doctor, so to her, that type of connection can come across superficially, especially if all that connection required was just her body, without anything more meaningful. Carla doesn't see anything wrong with it. In fact, she owns up to it without being a sleaze about it. On the other end of the spectrum, there's nothing wrong with good fun. It doesn't diminish her character in any way in needing an outlet for her stress to exit, which I feel can be a good character arc for Elliot. I'm still only on the first episode, but hopefully she can keep her integrity of not wanting to be seen as just arm candy, while not seeing lust as something that deserves to be condemned. Will they do something with this, or am I looking too much into it? Hopefully we find out by the end of this video, because I'm pretty invested in all of this. JD is left feeling all alone. This hospital feels so insincere. Dr. Cox is a cocky asshole to the newbie, his smart mouth doing nothing more than rubbing against his self-esteem like an eraser abused from trying to hide all the mistakes. When it's his first night on call, a patient passes on, breaking his heart, while JD's trying to figure out how he'll recover from the shock of, could I have done more? Nurse Laverne treats it just like another day at the hospital, and with her years on the place, it really is just nothing more than another day on the job for her. She's been hardened enough to brush it off and move on with apathy, but not JD. It's his first few days here. He can barely take it.
I just wanted to help people.
He needs someone. He needs a good guy to look after him. Thankfully, he has the chief of medicine at the hospital.
Do you not realize that you're nothing but a large pair of scrubs to me? The only reason I carry this chart around is so I can pretend to remember your damn names.
What a jerk. The good guy was only looking after one person, himself. All his advice wasn't for the sake of the patient or JD, but for the hospital's profits. Who can he count on? Who's the actual good person at this hospital? He has to rush on over to help Dr. Cox with a patient while his confidence is buried 6 feet under. He doesn't believe he can make a difference here as a doctor anymore, but Cox does. He reassures him that he has this. Now hurry, time isn't our friend here. And JD's able to actually perform unlike at the start of the show, and Dr. Cox gives him a word of confidence as he leaves, telling the nervous JD, you're the doctor here, this is your patient. He trusts the young Bambi enough that he has it all under control, and he does. There's even a cute little moment where Dr. Cox is hesitant to give JD a pat on the back and ultimately decides not to, as that would be too embarrassing for a brash guy like him. A great way to show just the kind of guy he is behind his attitude. A smart mouth, but with a smart heart. He may not be a nice little people pleaser like JD, but honesty and diligence is far kinder than flattery. JD runs into Turk before the end of the episode and they have a heart-to-heart. The smile and upbeat attitude he's showing to everyone, well, it's not entirely sincere. If he doesn't have to wear a mask during his operations, everyone would know he's actually having a pretty tough time right now. Being a surgeon is taking more of a toll than he thought it would be. Behind the bravado, he just wants his best friend to be there for him. That he needs JD, and yes, he will move with him.
Well, I think it's okay to be scared.
I need you to tell me that every once in a while, man.
He needs me?
I love you.
When JD's done after an exhausting day, Carla advises him to leave during his break while he still can. Kelso may not have his best interest at heart, but Carla does. She knows the little guy needs his rest after what he's just been through. As he's on his way out, Elliot asks if he's free. She's got one final thing to take care of, but she tells him not to worry about it. She's already taken care of it, and that she's sorry. She hopes he's still open to going on that date with her, but he's not so sure if he can trust her after how she two-timed him earlier. But with a kiss, all doubt leaves his body. My mentor has Elliot constantly visiting JD and Turk at their place, but there's one big problem. Turk finds her incredibly annoying, compounding when she makes a bad joke that indirectly insults his mother. Yeah, but the episode does bring up a pretty big issue that sadly people bicker about today. Can men and women really just be friends? because Turk doesn't think so. He believes JD only has her around to smash someday, and they get into a whole argument about it, with JD saying she makes a great friend, albeit he does have feelings for her, as we heard in the first episode. Elliot is his dream girl. We get a little more spice from Carla in this episode. When Turk makes his move on her, she turns him down, a bit opposite of the first episode, but she tells him she's actually looking for something more serious right now. She will not become some booty call, making him look like an idiot in front of everyone. But earlier, Elliot sort of snitched to Kelso about Carla, and she begins burying her fangs around her. Elliot is pretty depressed that no one in the hospital likes her. I mean, ain't no one likes a narc. Regardless, feeling underappreciated sucks. She's basically an outcast who, even when JD tries to coach her on giving Carla an apology, she ends with a statement on why she's right and Carla's wrong. So, yeah, she's got a pretty abrasive personality, making her quite unlikable. Once Turk spends some more time with her, despite her accidentally insulting his mom again, he admits she does make a pretty cool friend. He approaches Carla as she readies the girls to watch how Turk will peacock her, but his speech catches her off guard. He doesn't hit on her, no, but asks her to be kind to Elliot. While, yes, she may be a blunt hard ass who has trouble reading the room, she has her heart in the right place.
But instead, I think you should hop off your broom for a second. Try and remember what it was like when you first started here. And give Elliot a break, because she may be a chore, but she is a good person.
Pick me up tomorrow at 7.
As for JD, his patient is at risk for cancer unless he stops smoking. The worst part is, his patient is charming, friendly, and making it difficult for JD to be stern with him about his health. He wants him to quit, but he has trouble telling him the gravity of his situation without being lighthearted about it. All buddy-buddy. He does promise him he'll stop smoking. Thankfully, JD even brags about it to Dr. Cox, saying he made a difference, only for them to find a cigarette in his mouth. The entire episode, JD has been begging Dr. Cox for advice, but he just tells the newbie this is his problem and needs to figure it out on his own, constantly needing his advice, his reassurance that he's come to the right conclusion. He thinks he's being a good sport by asking all these questions, but Cox just finds him annoying. He tells him off, leaving him wondering who put a stick up his ass. Everyone reassures him that Dr. Cox is just a jerk, except the janitor. To him, JD is the jerk. Always, just because he doesn't like him. Carla, being the most empathetic, explained that's just how he is. JD figures Cox must be lonely, seeing how he's always alone at the hospital. He tries to bond with him, only to have it all backfire. No, Cox does have friends outside the hospital, and there's no way he's going to become the newbie's buddy. He doesn't need to be rescued, just like how his patient can't be rescued, only treated. You can't rescue him from his smoking, but he can treat it. And when he comes back because of the cancer, all he can do is treat it. And with those words of advice, JD gives up on trying to save Will Fort.
Is there anything else, Tom? Nope. But you wanted to.
Yeah, but you told me not
Jeez,
to.
JD, would you be a man? Look, if you can't stick to your convictions, you'll never make it as a doctor.
My best friend's mistake doesn't impress me as much as the last two episodes. There's less nuance and character moments, but it does trade those in for some more comedic bits, like the janitor pretending to see Turk outside the hospital when JD's looking for him, and he ends up locked up outside. So on and so forth. The first scene is Elliot going for a kiss, but JD's too filled with doubt to make a move until she reassures him she doesn't do this with every doctor at the hospital, getting him to lean in for a interruption by Dr. Cox, which is bad. Really bad, because JD believes he has 48 hours to kiss her before his lack of balls puts him in the friend zone forever. But throughout the episode, there are distractions, and the biggest one being, Carla and Turk are in the honeymoon phase of their relationship, and JD's beginning to feel a little neglected. He misses him so much it hurts his performance at work. He also doesn't like Carla at their place as she acts too much like a mom. There are rumors going around that there's an incompetent person at the hospital. JD believes Laverne is referring to Turk, but stands up for him, and whoever did that isn't as bad as she's making it out to be, eventually leading to a moment he messes up a diagnosis with a patient, but Carla settles Bambi down to let him know it's okay, it was nothing serious, and it's been taken care of. Turk noticed his mistake and took care of it himself. As he steps back, he opens up about how lonely he's feeling without his best bud. Turk lets him know just because he hasn't had the time to hang out with him doesn't mean he doesn't care about him. Carla's taking up his priorities now. This is just how it is, and if he had the same hots for someone else, he'd do the same thing. So this idiot remembers he needs to kiss Elliot and kiss her soon before she loses feelings for him. He does go in for a kiss, but she's had a rough day. The mood is gone. And thankfully, while I'm not a fan of the whole notion of friend zone, I appreciate them ending the episode on how friendship is important. Having primal desires isn't an excuse to be a bad friend.
JD, can we just talk for a second?
I know the idea of choosing friendship over sex seems like the last thing any guy wants to hear. It actually made sense to me. I can't believe you lost our bottle opener.
I miss it so much it hurts sometimes.
My old lady is good. Real good. I wanted to break down crying a few times, even when writing the script or making the edit at the end. We start with Elliot and Carla bickering as the boys are trying to keep it together. On to the hospital. All three of them are introduced to a patient who will change how they show up to their job. Elliot is assigned a patient that only speaks Spanish, so she requests a Spanish-speaking nurse, and who else could it be, other than her bestest bestie in the whole wide world? Carla, of course. Turk has an operation soon on hernia patient, but JD's a little taken aback at how detached his best friend is. I mean, hernia patient? He doesn't even know his name? What's up with that? Is he keeping his distance so he doesn't get cold feet when he operates? Turk tries to brush it off and just goes off on his merry way. As for JD, he meets a lively old lady who just lights up the room for him, even offering him words of kindness when she can see he's struggling. With some time together, Elliot begins to rely on Carla, getting close enough she can ask,
Have you slept with Turk yet?
What? I like to wait. I like a guy to want it so bad he basically thinks he isn't gonna get it ever. Then when he's lost the will to live, that's when I jump him.
Hernia patient ends up dragging Turk into his room to watch the game with him, and they get to know each other. So much so that when things might go wrong, he gives hernia patient's dad a phone call. When Kelso asks him if he's wasting time on the phone on a personal call, he says that the call is for David. His dad needs to know what's wrong. Kelso's been hearing he's spending too much time with this patient, arguing he doesn't need a friend, he needs a doctor. At the end of the episode, things don't look good for any of their patients. When Elliot needs to bring the bad news to her, she runs away and Carla has to chase her down. She can't tell her she's most likely going to die, and Carla has her moment of vulnerability. The reason she's been so hard on Elliot is because she's talented, but she isn't doing anything with her talent. Carla knows she's good. Elliot just has to act on it, like now. She knows what to do, just that she needs to do it. Go tell Mrs. Guerrero what she's in for, and do the best she can with all that ability Carla knows she has. David's dad asks Turk to not let him know why he needs an emergency operation, but he wants to be honest. He tells David he found a tumor and takes him to the operation room. Mrs. Tanner tells JD she doesn't want any sort of operation, she's ready to die, but he won't let it sink in. Even Dr. Cox offers a word of advice to mind his own business. JD refuses. He does everything in his power to talk her out of it. By the end, they all end up losing their patience, but they all got something important from this experience. Elliot begins to try and trust herself instead of letting fear run her life. Turk almost leaves the room, but he stops himself to introduce himself to the new patient, JD. JD takes in Mrs. Tanner's final words.
Aren't there other patients you need to be seeing?
Me? No, I've been off for 2 hours.
So with your precious free time, you've been sitting in a hospital room talking to an old lady. You need to start taking some time for yourself, young man. Are you okay?
I'm scared.
Come here. Come here. Come here.
Hallelujah.
My two dads has Kelso being impressed with JD enough to invite him to play golf with him. And what a surprise, Dr. Cox is there too. The entire time they argue if it's more important to do what's best for the hospital or for the patient. JD wants to do it by the books, as Kelso's promoting, but when he accidentally hears how he sees a patient by how much money they could make for the hospital, he starts to have a change of heart, and Dr. Cox did a surgery without Kelso's authorization because the insurance wouldn't cover it, causing Dr. Cox to be on suspension for the time being, a battle for doing things the right way or doing things for the right reason.
I'll teach you to respect this institution.
I hope you learn from this.
There's a side plot of a kid who's not getting better, making a wish to see some titties from a cute girl before he dies. And JD tells Elliot,
You're cute.
she sits with it for a long time before she caves and decides to flash her tatas, and voila, It works. Then her next patient isn't getting better, so she does it again, and yeah, problem solved. It even gets to the point where she tries to bring back the dead with her amazing brew. Now onto the stars of the episode. JD asks if he hit it yet, and Turk teases him that he did. The problem is, Carla overhears this and corrects him. She hasn't put out yet, and Turk's complacency to correct JD has her livid. She's not looking for a pump and dump. She wants to make sure this is something real. She needs them to know each other better than they know themselves. Turk tries to fix things with a gift, but Elliot says all his ideas are too cliched. Flowers? How original. Chocolate? Who hasn't done that? Well, Carla loves to write and finds a personal handwritten letter special. So a pen it is, but people have been coming to the hospital because they have stuff up their hiney, and one has a pen? Yeah, the pen he's going to give her is coming from someone's buttocks. She loves the gift so much she can't control herself, but as it all unfolds, Turk has a guilty conscience. He admits the pen came out of someone's ass.
And to think you were this close to getting everything you wanted. I assume this is what you wanted.
Yes.
You come home and tell me this all because being open and honest in our relationship is more important to you than having sex with me. Are you coming or what?
My bad begins with bum, booty. You have to check on people's ass. Thankfully that's not the butt of today's episode, or that would be cheeky. Sorry, not sorry. Elliot gets a patient who is also a therapist, just that his mouth is covered and he can only communicate through his eyes and a notepad, and she non-consensually goes to him to unpack her trauma. Carla's mom caught her and Turk in the middle of snoo and goes all ballistic. Because an unmarried woman shouldn't be doing such a thing, she continues their relationship at Turk's only to learn her mother broke her leg in the shower and believes none of this would have happened if she'd only stayed home, putting a sour note in their relationship. And for some bizarre logic, blames Turk for her mom's accident in a different location. Like, how? It takes Dr. Cox talking some sense into her before it all makes sense that there's no way Turk and her mother breaking her leg in the shower all by herself are in any way related. JD spends the episode with a smoking hot patient who is bossy with a smart mouth. Sounds kinda familiar. Anyways, he's had enough of her domineering attitude as he grows a backbone, demanding she not leave just because she's bored. He has a job to do, and she demands his pants be dropped. Learning she's on the board for the hospital, he asks if she can get Dr. Cox back in action. But as he enters the scene, his ex-wife berates his isolation and soul-sucking life at Sacred Heart. That sharp tongue, wit, that domineering attitude. The woman he just had a hard-on for used to be Dr. Cox's love of his life. That is until he realized he married his mother and remembered he hated his mother. All this pisses him off to the point where his anger gets to Carla, and her anger gets to Turk, then to Elliot, and so on and so forth, showing that anger burns everything that tries to interact with it. The episode concludes with Jordan getting her ex-husband back into the hospital so his soul can rot in this godforsaken hospital. Elliot coming to terms that she may need actual therapy after her heart sinks when the shrink is discharged. Dr. Cox gives the newbie a sincere word of thanks, and Carla and Turk's relationship starts to show some crack. Also, JD told a fib.
Stick with the truth and you can't get hurt. It's just always been my philosophy.
You didn't sleep with her, did you?
God, no.
Philosophy is tricky.
Before we get to the thesis of episode 7, I want to talk about the side plot first. Turk is losing his confidence and has been distant to everyone trying to get close to him, even Carla, putting up a fake smile to reassure her. Dr. Cox, for some reason, says he can't stand to see Carla so sad. He won't let some idiot upset her like that. Well, anyways, he ends up buying her a giant muffin I would totally devour in half a minute, complimenting her outfit, and just being strangely extra sweet than normal. But it's probably because earlier she said she sees through his mad dog act and he's actually really sweet on the inside. Couldn't be anything with conflicting emotions, right? But Carla presses forward and reassures Turk that she wants to be there for him. She doesn't believe the tough guy act. It's okay to ask for help. My super ego is a great one. As the title implies, we're going to be very entertainingly and not with a dumb exposition speech lecturing you about what you should know, but by trusting you enough to learn by watching instead of listening to a drab speech like I'm doing right now. What a super ego is. No, I'm not gonna give you a definition. I'm just gonna talk about the episode and hope you can read between the lines and use your critical thinking skills to infer what the super ego is. I used to be a substitute teacher. I'm not going to give you the answer. Now pay attention. Class is in session. Lunch is in 30 minutes, by the way. It's Pizza Friday. Can you bring me back a slice? Okay, thanks. Nick's the star of the show in this episode. He's intelligent, charming, and has a cute little butt. Elliot's words, not mine. I could play the clip, but we've hung out for 6 episodes so far. You trust my word, right? Right? Oh, and Elliot has a giant crush on him, causing JD to fantasize about strangling Nick. But during his kinky little fantasies, Nick is giving him advice on how to strangle him better. I mean, what a nice guy. No wonder everyone likes him so much. He's the light to the darkness in this hospital. He don't need no help from no one. Nick's the one always offering help to everyone else. Carries a smile on his face to give people wonderful advice while uplifting their spirit, helping JD out when he forgets the answer during rounds because, everyone looks up to him. It'll inspire everyone if JD keeps his high status, according to Nick anyways, leading up to a scene where JD passes the torch on to him. Until it happens, the kid is terminally ill. Nick doesn't want to tell him. Actually, he can't. It's far too much for him. He has a breakdown and admits to hating his life being in this lifeless hospital.
This place. I hate this job. I can't do it anymore. I'm done. I'm done. The scariest thing was that I thought that he was stronger than all of us.
My 15 minutes strips us of all preconceived notions of what a good doctor does on their downtime. Because JD and Turk are headed to the strip club, baby. This is until, well, there's a protest and a camera crew is approaching them.
Oh, this is just, it's $38 in singles, right?
But someone faints for them to show off their doctor skills, leading them to become heroes. The camera crew goes to the hospital to interview them as JD makes remarks on the interview's sex appeal while she walks away. Unbeknownst to him that the clip on his collar is a microphone, that the cameraman heard every word of it. On to actual news. The interview asks Turk what it's like being a black doctor, catching him a bit as a deer in the headlight. Kelso asks JD to use this as publicity for the hospital, which he uses as good news to tell Turk, only for them to stumble on a sign of them with one of the texts stating diversity in big bold letters. Now, I don't think this is a topic I can cover with proper care and attention, so I'll only be talking about it as a matter of factly as the show presents it. Someone could cover this topic with a lot more nuance than I can, and I don't want to pretend I can, only to do a bad job at it. Apologies. Anyways, Turk vents to JD that he's always been treated differently for the color of his skin, and he feels like they just want to tell a sob story about a poor black man who beat all the odds. That's not what he wants. He wants to be acknowledged for the hard-working surgeon he knows he is. They even have these tacky signs plastered all over the place, so Turk confronts Kelso that if he doesn't do anything about this, he will be suing him. Kelso's cockiness gets the best of him as he states Turk is his employee. He can do whatever he wants with him and his image. He has all the power here. That is until Ted, the hospital's lawyer, butts in.
Sir, that lawsuit would be over so quickly, I'd advise you to bring cab fare to the courthouse since Dr. Turk will be driving your Beamer home to his place.
Who's the man?
Is it me?
Damn right it's you.
As for Elliot, her loneliness gets the better of her this episode as Carla gushes over seeing her old friend again. JD notices her sadness and invites her to spend time with them. Yeah, talk about staying in your own lane there, Dr. Just Dumb. When they meet, Elliot accidentally makes a bad joke about her boy toy only to be told, that's her son. She had him when she was 14. But when the time comes to hang out, Carla says she has to cancel as her mom will be at the hospital, so Elliot goes out drinking alone. As she leaves the bar, her eyes break as she runs into Carla and her friend, rushing off as Carla tries to explain herself. Carla opens up to Turk how badly the guilt is eating at her, takes a shot at him by saying, men can't handle these deep, vulnerable conversations, so why does she even bother opening up to him about these sensitive topics?
Hey, Turk. Look, I'm really sorry about the whole poster thing. It was racially insensitive of me. I should have been more aware of your feelings before I went ahead and spoke for you.
It's okay, your intentions were good, and there's never been an issue of race between us. Since the day I met you, you've been nothing but a friend to me.
I love you, man.
Hit me one.
She puts her big girl pants on and has her heart-to-heart with Elliot. She missed Patricia and really wanted some one-on-one time with her, but Elliot doesn't buy it. She knows it's because she doesn't fit in. She never fits in. But as they speak, Laverne comes in to tell Carla that Patricia's son is in the hospital. As she rushes over to help, so does Elliot. Elliot comforts Patricia during all this as she thanks her, Carla asking if she'll be joining them on the night out later. Closing with Laverne coming out of the blue to comfort Elliot with a nice cup of coffee. Sometimes our isolation is all in our heads, you know? This is a JD and Dr. Cox episode 2. JD's having his evaluation filled out by him, but Dr. Cox tells him he's too busy to. With all the bravado he's built up lately, he actually puts on his big boy pants to tell him, this is your job and you need to get your act together, which he agrees to, singing his praises to evaluators, but in private,
you're okay. You might be better than that someday, but right now all I see is a guy who's so worried about what everybody else thinks of him that he has no real belief in himself. Clam up! I wanted you to think about yourself. And I mean really think. What are you good at? What do you suck at? And then I wanted you to put it down on paper. And not so I could see it, and not so anybody else could see it, but so that you could see it. Because ultimately, you don't have to answer to me, and you don't have to answer to Kelso. You don't even have to answer to your patients, for God's sake. You only have to answer to one guy, newbie, and that's you.
My day off takes place around Thanksgiving. We really see the importance of loyalty in relationships here as JD leans into Turk about dancing with some strange girl when he's with Carla. I mean, yeah, things turn around when he realizes she is awestruck to finally meet him. She's heard so much about the children JD saves, best wingman. But as he gets his flirt on, he passes out and becomes a patient at Sacred Heart. What better luck than having Elliot examine him and his unmentionables, huh? Well, according to the grapevine, Elliot violated him. Pissed, she confronts him about what he means by that. Well, while she's efficient and thorough, she comes off rather cold. She cannot believe what she is hearing, going so far as to ask for reassurance from her patients, only to find out 2 of them are only pretending to be asleep so they don't have to interact with her. The exact opposite reaction that Carla gets. Her advice, start by giving them a gentle touch, only that the icy cold Elliot only makes things worse by pretending to be extra touchy and scares her patients half to death. That's it. There's no happy ending here for her today. The old chief of medicine is here, and it brings out a side of Dr. Cox we've never seen before. For once, he's the attention seeker, not JD. He does everything in his power to get him to pay attention to him. To the point he's jealous Kelso gets more screen time than him. Dr. Benson explains, he knows Kelso sucks. Anyone with eyes can see that. So stop acting like a spoiled kid and get his act together. Cox is extremely talented, but he's way too off the books. If he just took a chance to learn the system, imagine the difference he can make from the inside where all this resistance his rebellious operations stir up. And the last bit of lore for this episode is that JD doesn't want Turk to operate on him. He thinks his buddy is too childish. It breaks his heart a little. So Carla comes to the rescue. Look, Turk is a goofball, but when the going gets tough, he professionals up. And she asks Turk to have some compassion. JD is just scared. What he needs is reassurance, not the cold shoulder.
I want you inside of me. I want to be the one inside of you.
My nickname begins with the janitor giving JD a new nickname when he asks if he could please leave him alone today. Whiny face for always complaining. And yeah, I know I haven't mentioned the janitor or Todd much, but with how long this video is, it might almost double if I did. I don't think anyone wants to listen to my voice for however long that would be. Basically, there's a gag with the janitor and JD every episode, and Todd interjects himself to say something sexual every episode. If you watch the show, you'll have a great time with them, or your money back guaranteed, I promise. JD and Carl have been spending more time together and going out on nice little friend dates. They're really loving the fact that the person they get to work with is someone who makes everything so much more pleasant. And we find Turk on a bench to calm his spirit. The problem is Kelso has been sitting here for lunch for over 2 decades. Now they butt heads and manipulate one another to get the other to not show back up. Elliot meets a patient that is driving Dr. Cox crazy with her incessant yapping, but it turns out they actually have a lot in common. So much in common that they basically become besties. A win for a lonely outcast if I do say so myself. Except she's going to be discharged soon, but instead of it being good news, she breaks into tears. You see, she has so much on her plate, the pressure is getting to her, and she doesn't know how to tell people no. So Elliot decides to keep her in for the weekend. She knows what it's like to carry too much on her shoulders. Dr. Cox, annoyed by Jill, takes his frustrations on Newbie, getting him to feel rather hurt. But this gets Carla to show her teeth as she rips into him for being a douchebag to her precious Bambi. So Cox goes to JD and warns the entire room to be gentle with sensitive little Newbie, or her mommy's gonna come yell at you all. Sadly, his comments get to him and he's working with Carla.
Give me that, Bambi. That's not a toy.
Look, my name is not Bambi, okay? It's Dr. Dorian.
Yes, Doctor.
Carla lets him know she's still down to see the museum later, that everything's okay, but
I don't think we're okay. I've had hundreds of interns decide that they don't need me anymore. Why should... You see, this is why you can't be friends with doctors.
In 9 years, I never once felt bad about myself for what I do, not for 1 second. And then I met you.
Our episode does have a happy ending. Dr. Cox asks Elliot for a boatload of stupid requests as she easily says yes to realize she's just like Jill. Dr. Cox knows she needs to chill out or else the stress will leave Elliot in Jill's position. With some time away to calm down, they begin to acknowledge each other again.
Hey, Carla, how many MEQs of potassium should I give this guy?
You know the answer to that. Don't do that. But thanks, Bambi.
My own personal Jesus is the Christmas episode. To get the small stuff out of the way, JD has to record Dr. Cox's friend giving birth.
Yet another soldier in the fight against communism.
But when he uses a tape he can't record over, Cox decides to make fake footage to show his friend, which his ex-wife doesn't buy, using it as ammo to berate him. That is until JD butts in with a comment, causing both of them to double team him into keeping his mouth shut, possibly the start of rekindling their relationship. Elliot has to take care of a young pregnant woman, but comments she doesn't work well with babies. She should find someone else, causing the young woman to run away and Elliot panicking as she uses her day off to try and find her without any luck. JD knows that the worst part of the job is having to talk to people and telling them their patient isn't going to make it. They look up to these doctors like some sort of Superman. There's only so much they can do. This dude is on the brink of death and with no hope in sight, makes a snappy recovery out of nowhere. Turk believes he knows what happened. It was a Christmas miracle. Seeing a bright star out the window, he knows it had to be the work of God, to the chagrin of both JD and Carla, as they listen to him talk about his fate. Over time, Turk's Christmas spirit begins to fade as person after person keeps ending up in the hospital. Carla does her best to cheer him up, but her offer for sexy time only offended him.
I can make you seek God again, or at least call out his name.
Is this a joke to you? Baby, you don't know how I feel. I feel abandoned. How am I supposed to believe in someone that is willing to let innocent people suffer? Huh? Answer me, please.
Thankfully, the episode ends as Turk follows the star, which leads him to help the young woman who ran away to help her give birth. My blind date is filled with Cox with an X, not a CK joke, as Elliot knows Dr. Cox likes to torture his protege, and she's willing to let him have his way with her, in the operating room, on the job. You see, Cox is having a long, hard streak the entire day. He hasn't lost a single patient, often needing assistance from JD, causing Elliot to become jealous. Why can't he use her, she vents to JD, and he just tells her. While it scares him, when he speaks up for himself, Cox respects that, so she should learn to do the same. For most of the day, JD has to reassure a woman stuck in an MRI machine before she has a panic attack in there. But Cox is constantly calling his attention and has to leave her due to her flirtatious nature. He can't help but wonder if she's ugly or not before letting this connection burn. With Turk, he yells at Carla for stealing his french fries when she said she didn't want any at the counter. Honestly, I have to ask, women, why do you do this? It's not cute, especially in this economy. Anywho, they both have to work with a patient, but he's stuck in a crossfire if they're bickering. But honestly, it's more like he's adding fuel to the fire by saying, that guy looks done with this relationship. He's practically begging to be away from you, nurse, which leads to one final argument before the episode ends. Turk puts his feelings out on the table. Well, yes, now that he's not blinded by the honeymoon anymore, she drives him a little nuts with her bossiness, but in spite of it all, he still wants to be with her.
Why are you squeezing all my fingers?
I'll tell you what I'm not doing. I'm not checking for a wedding ring.
My balancing act has some imbalances going on. For one, ever since saying I love you, Carla and Turk have been having trouble in bed. JD is too busy trying to impress Dr. Cox by not making an ass of himself again. Turk can't talk to him, and Elliot is drier than the Sahara Desert that Carla has no one to ask advice for. But it turns out there's just been too much on Carla's mind about the future of the relationship that she can't properly get in the mood. And with Turk's words of assurance, she's able to not overthink it so much. JD and Alex have been dating, but every time the date's going good, his pager beeps. It gets to the point where they plan a romantic dinner where JD shows up 80 minutes late, causing her to end the relationship. I mean, can you blame her? He's just not respecting her time. The worst part of it all, during this time, he was hard at work with Dr. Cox, if you can count him staring at his watch the entire time when he should have been with Alex instead. Exciting. He's just so inspired by Dr. Cox's work ethic.
You want to be like me? You understand that I just barely want to be like me.
He does beg for her back while she's on a date, but she refuses. By the end of the episode though, Alex takes him up on his offer.
Hey man, where you go? Who am I gonna talk to about sex?
All I have for breakfast is yogurt, and I'm out of bowls, so you'll have to eat off my stomach.
Or sometimes, just balance.
My drug buddy begins with,
Now that's what I'm talking about.
it's a rather straightforward episode. Carla missed her bus and Kelso just so happened to be nearby. Not watching for a good laugh or anything, no. So they start spending time together as Carla's spunk comes out when she tells someone off for being an impatient brat, winning Kelso's attention, making him give her special treatment, and Carla trying to convince the nurses to be nice to Kelso. That is until she tries to hide when the nurses walk by them, causing Kelso to tell her, feel free to miss the bus tomorrow if you want to try your luck. But he ends up just splashing water at her while driving past her. Carla wants Turk to spend time with Cox. They are friends after all. When it turns out they have the exact same pee schedule, he makes sure to look him dead in the eye as he whips his cock with a CK and not an X to connect with him. But for some reason, Cox doesn't budge and does everything he can to annoy Turk, even disagreeing on how to treat a patient, till it's revealed
Hey.
Hi, sweetie.
Alex and Elliot bicker on who could have stolen some drugs, and JD has to pick a side, ultimately siding with Alex for no reason other than he wants to do the snoo. So when he tells Elliot he thinks Alex is right, she's not surprised. He just wants to get in her pants.
I'm sorry, but you had your chance with me.
But as she freshens up, he discovers Alex was the one who took the drugs. She tries to explain that she needs them. Her job breaks her and she needs these to feel okay, but JD just can't go through with it. He offers her a list of contacts who could help her, but she never answers back.
Because I was jealous. Do you think this is gonna work out? Yeah. I believe you.
My bad banter and beyond just spends half the episode with JD and Elliot getting nasty, which says a lot since this episode is 5 minutes longer than any other episode. When their first night is over, Elliot says that was a fun mistake, but asks JD to promise to not tell anyone about it. They should go back to just being friends. And he agrees. That is until she's by the door. He couldn't just let her walk out after all of that. He wants her to stay and really be something together. So now it's official. They're a couple. To no one's surprise, even though they tried their best to hide it. But after the first week, the cracks start to show. Every one of JD's jokes just come off as childish and insincere. By week 2, Elliot's insecurities weigh on JD, with him wondering why she can't just let the bad stuff go. When Dr. Cox asks JD to answer who's right with their diagnosis between him and Elliot, JD says while Elliot is correct on paper, he thinks Cox has the more sensible approach. And here even Cox thinks Newbie is a dumbass. Are relationships supposed to be this hard? When Carla and Turk are together, it doesn't look like it. For them, being together brings them life. For Elliot,
I'm getting so tired of this.
One of those two people will stand up and fight for that relationship every time, if it's right, and they're real lucky. One of them will say something.
My Heavy Metal, with a D, not a T, has Carla trying to get some sexy metal music for her dying patient, but gets in trouble because a man seductively screaming in everyone's ear is inappropriate for a hospital. So she and Ted tenderly sing sexual lyrics to this man who can't wake up. Moving on to the bigger theme of the episode, Elliot and JD berate each other around the hospital now that their relationship has ended. Turk has a project and he needs a book-smart partner to help him. He chooses Elliot, constantly inviting her over and casually testing the water to see if maybe she still feels a little something for JD, but they just treat each other like villains. It's all fine and dandy until Todd comments that Elliot's the perfect nerd to take on an entire project herself so her partner can just chill. So he fesses up. He chose her because he knew it would get her to be around JD. He's not saying they have to get back together romantically, but Elliot is a cherished friend now. He cares about her. JD is his best friend. He wants them both to be happy. So please, he wants Elliot to look inside herself and see if there's anything inside her that feels she can clear the air with JD. Dr. Cox goes ballistic and starts breaking stuff in a hospital room, but the nurse informs JD that this is normal. He does this every year. Just don't get in the middle of it all and he'll be fine. Only for Dr. Cox to show up at 2 at night to drag him to a bar for drinks where they don't exchange a single line of conversation. JD says he seems fine, so he's going to leave, with Cox saying he has no reason to go back to the hospital tomorrow. He can't take this anymore. JD tells the nurses he thinks he and Cox are finally breaking the emotional barrier between them. Cox is always like that. He's fine. He's going to barge back in and be totally normal, which he does, making JD confront him to say he doesn't think this is healthy. He needs to talk about his feelings, only for Cox to ask, when your teacher died last week, what did you do? Make a joke about it, which is exactly why Cox says everyone needs a way to relieve their feelings. This is how he does it, and it works for him. Following his advice, JD spends some time alone with his feelings and the letter of recommendation his teacher gave him, eventually being found by Elliot to ask if there's anything she can do so he doesn't feel so down. Everything she suggests, he turns down. That is until she suggests throwing stuff off the roof. JD and his circle of friends let their feelings out as the poor janitor has to pick up after them later.
'Cause you're whipped.
I thought so.
Thank you.
My Student has our 3 main characters looking after some newcomers. Elliot has a slacker who can't even shave a man's balls without putting up an attitude. She finds out he's the son of the CEO of the company who owns the hospital and starts taking over for him until Kelso's like, what in the hell are you doing? I'm the one who has to suck up to his dad, grow a pair and make his son do some work. Turk has the super sexy, super smart, super witty one who Cox has a little crush on, going so far as to make an ass of himself around her. After fumbling all day, Turk lays down the law. Cox needs to get his act together and stop bothering his student, and she needs to be getting her work done, not sweet talking this guy every time he has his head turned. So once their shift is over, the pleasure of being with someone she's not supposed to excites her. As their bodies closen, Cox lets it slip. No, not his wang dang doodle. His feelings. That he's only doing this to get over someone amazing. It wouldn't be fair to her, but she's a crazy one. Letting him know, that's for her to decide as she throws him on the couch. JD has this sincere, incompetent Josh, whose heart is in the right place, but he keeps making one mistake, then another single mistake, and another, until it all adds up to a million little mistakes. So what does our JD, who was making a fool with his low self-esteem during his first days at Sacred Heart, do? He tells the poor guy he's not cut out to be a doctor. When he hears how Josh just quit, he goes around to everyone to justify himself and telling him he doesn't have what it takes.
Hey, Laverne, what'd you say about JD when he first started working here?
Well, he was the most incompetent young doctor I ever worked with.
It's not my fault he failed.
He didn't fail, you did. You're supposed to be his teacher.
Thankfully, JD gets his heart back in place as he tries to pep Josh back into shape the only way he knows how.
I can't.
Newbie, wait.
Newbie?
Shut up.
He puts confidence into Josh but needs Carla to fix Josh's mistakes as the episode fades to black. My Tuscaloosa heart has JD upset. He treated a patient that was a jerk to him with less than his best before he died. Carla and several others reassure him that he's done nothing wrong. They know he tried his best. He was terminal with cancer. Even Kelso gives him a word of approval, but even that doesn't budge him. It all comes down to some Cox, and he dangles the truth up against his face. Only he himself knows for sure if he did his best or not. But it's normal to treat the good ones good and the bad ones bad. It's hard to treat an abuser nicely, but you live and you learn. And JD does. He learns to do better. There was another patient with a mental disability that got on his nerves, but he decides to do better this time. Cox and Kristen are really hitting it off, but he had to blow her off for some reason. Eventually his ex-wife barges into his home only for Cox to spill the fact that he's falling in love and he's afraid of being happy. Jordan is bored out of her mind, waiting for him to drop his pants. He stumbles upon Jordan chatting it up with Kristen as Carla makes her way and gives a good word to Dr. Cox. A thanks for helping her move her furniture last night and a wink to Kristen as she tells him what a good man Dr. Cox is. But that was the night Kristen wanted a date with him, but he explains he needed that night without her to come to the realization of just how much he wants her, begging his ex-wife to explain how he opened up to her last night about this very thing before she left. So obviously, Kristen walks out knowing he has other women to share his nights with. Okay, enough of that heavy stuff. This is where the fun is. Elliot and Turk find out Kelso used to be a singer and she digs for his old music and finds some songs about Bunny. They go crazy imagining how maybe Kelso used to be a romantic.
Have you guys ever stopped to think that maybe Bunny is just a real bunny?
Baby, that's just stupid.
But then he got his heart broken, and that's why he's become a giant jerk that only loves money at this hospital. When he can't help but ask Kelso, he tells them to get their heads out of their ass and get back to work. He's not this sensitive soul they're projecting onto him.
Without you, oh, it ain't just.
My old man has Turk and Elliot being nervous about their presentation, not because they lack confidence, but because their parents are coming. So JD uses this as a chance to rub it in until Turk calls his dad to hang around the hospital. Now everyone here can revert back to their infant self as their parents point out all their insecurities. Yeah, that's basically the entire episode. And no matter how old you get, when your parents are around, you just revert back to a kid. When Elliot asks Kelso for advice, he brings up the fact that many people get a prestigious job, not because they want to, but so their parents would be proud of them. And she has a whole identity crisis on whether or not she actually wants to be a doctor, or if she's just trying to impress her mom. Even going back to her with the only thing that comes out of her mouth is that her daughter will never find a man for being so ugly. And is she a lesbian? JD's dad leaves every time he needs him there, getting him to relive the neglect. But upon realizing that his dad may be insecure himself, cuts him some slack. Carla re-evaluates her relationship when she realizes it's almost a carbon copy of Turk's mom. But they'll ask a therapist once they're married.
Are you two sharing a bed?
No!
Yes, ma'am, we are. Don't give him any for a month or so. Done.
Oh, it can't go down like that. It just can't go down like that.
My way or the highway is JD being sick and tired of Turk making everything a competition, and when he outconvinces a patient on what they should do, he gets upset. When he tells Turk his competitiveness makes him a bad friend, he tells it to him straight. He is a competitive person, and that's what makes him a good doctor. But this isn't about his competitiveness, it's about his lack of belief in himself. But the real shebang of this episode is,
I have something for you in my pants. No, I'm not wearing any pants. Right now, my pants are over there.
Elliot has a crush on a patient who's just as much of a klutz as she is, and she spends the entire episode trying to get him to ask her out, and failing.
It's all about hiding the crazy and acting like the most confident girl in the room.
It was time to act like the most confident girl in the room.
Kind of terrible advice, but Elliot eventually just demands Sean to ask her out when he's discharged. Much better if you ask me. My sacrificial clam has a syringe of blood penetrate JD, causing him to be afraid of sickness in a hospital. Yeah, and he has to take care of a patient who's highly contagious, constantly asking other people if they could do this small favor of taking care of the guy for him. That is until he has a good look in the mirror and realizes, where did his self-respect go? Turk's been putting on some weight as Carla teases his belly and makes him insecure of his body, but she's empathetic towards him. It's easy to start stress eating donuts during hard nights at the hospital, she says as she's eyeing a big, sweaty Cox after a hard workout, making Turk feel even more insecure about the donuts. So he goes to Dr. Cox to join his workout, leaving Carla feeling kind of neglected in the process. So what's the advice he gets from Cox? To hate yourself into getting a hot bod. The moment you think you look nice, it's game over, dollface. Shame is the name of the game, baby.
Hey, baby. You likes?
I miss you.
Baby, we just got started down here.
Props for the commitment.
I'm out.
As someone who shames himself into losing a ton of weight, you can totally still hate yourself even after losing it if you only did it because you hate yourself. It won't give you a sense of self-respect either. You don't practice compassion by being an asshole. And Elliot is completely enamored by Sean. She can't help but wear it on her face at work. She's not even wearing the appropriate clothes either. They're at Sean's place. Her performance is in question too. She used to spend sleepless nights studying to make sure she's the best, but with a budding romance, it's too much for her plate.
So what are you saying?
I think I'm saying that I can't make this work right now. If I don't do the very best that I can, I'm gonna hate myself forever.
My occurrence is the first of a two-parter, so Turk has to chop off someone's balls, but Todd comes on in saying he might have the wrong patient. And it turns out he's right. Turk was only a second away from chopping off the wrong pair of balls. Then Elliot's bestie comes back in with some exciting news. She's getting married, and it's all okay because her symptoms are all the signs of pregnancy. Oh, her future husband she said she was saving herself for marriage is going to be... Wait. You mean they haven't gone down and tried to make a baby yet? She calls her fiance and explains why she cheated, only for Elliot to rush back in and say, "Your lab tech made a mistake. She's not actually pregnant." What a relief, you guys. They state a statistic that 20% of the time a hospital makes a mistake. Most of them are inconsequential though, according to the show. So when Dr. Cox's best friend shows up in the hospital and his wounds won't heal, Newbie has to make sure his tests get back to him as soon as possible, but the results aren't good, and after 2 goofs already, JD tries to find any evidence that these results are wrong, but Kelso discovers his little shenanigan and tells him, if you don't look for mistakes, you won't find a mistake. So Carla tries to seduce JD and tells him to cop a feel, which he reluctantly tells her no. And she goes on to tell him, either your instincts are right or your brain is trying to protect you from something. You have good instincts. Trust him. So he's able to get the tests redone, but sadly, Ben has leukemia.
Too much ha-ha, pretty soon boo-hoo.
Can't stop thinking about Mr. Weinberg's testicles.
Dude.
To get the light stuff out of the way, Kelso gives Elliot an evaluation paper for himself, but doesn't tell her she's the only one that's got one. The kicker is, Carla wrote the evaluation and wrote the reason Kelso's such a stick is because he ain't getting any, but Elliot takes the bullet for her so she won't get in trouble, getting Carla to feel bad about herself for not speaking up for Elliot. Here comes the racer. Turk is upset he didn't get picked for a procedure and says, "You notice you're both Asian?" Yeah. Good one there, buddy. Like, what the fuck? Eventually leading up to him asking, who's the best surgeon here? And to everyone's surprise, it's Todd. I mean, how could that pervert without a single brain cell be the best? Simple. Turk overthinks and his doubt shows in his procedures, while Todd doesn't wonder if he'll make a mistake and goes all in.
Out of control doesn't mean I think too much. Plus, what if I
Dum shiny scalpel. Dum gonna slice him up.
My hero has JD questioning Cox as a role model as he tells Ben he might not be able to make it to his chemotherapy. How could he abandon a patient? Well, Ben isn't a patient. Ben is a friend. There's no emotional weight with a patient, but the weight of losing Ben isn't something he can be with confidence. This put JD in quite a pickle. He's as confident as trying to figure out why the janitor knows who he had a crush on as a little schoolboy.
She wore a green turtleneck, and you wonder sometimes if she still thinks about you.
He can't look up to Cox anymore if he's showing signs of weakness. Carla goes and tells Kelso the truth. Turk finds confidence in himself whether or not he's the best. And Cox isn't weak, he's being vulnerable. And despite opening up about his fears, he goes through and sits with Ben despite how uncomfortable it all makes him feel.
Always be a hero to me. What a girl.
For our final episode of the season, My Last Day has all our favorite doctors excited that it's their final day being interns. Just a year ago, as the newbies who were treated indifferently, they knew they had a good example of what kind of doctors they didn't want to be. Like trying to pass off the annoying patient with no insurance off to one another because they just can't with him. Even Dr. Cox compliments the newbie on all the good he's done this year that he says, sure, why the hell not? He'll take care of Bober. Who's this Bobber guy? Well, I don't know because the three of them don't know who the guy they've been passing around even looks like.
When we started here a year ago and saw some of the insensitive and jaded doctors, we all said the same thing. That's not gonna be me.
Cox asks Elliot to give Jordan her physical as Jordan teases her about having the hots for JD, only for Elliot to retaliate by saying she can't be over Cox if she's constantly going back to fuck him while he watches sports. That's not doing the emotional damage to him she thinks it is. Dr. Cox sells his soul to Kelso by saying how this operation could benefit the finance of the hospital in the future by minimizing his return visits. When Jordan spends the night with Cox, she makes a comment about some guy she likes, which is him obviously. But all she gets in return is a Cox tease. He tells her he didn't go to her for help with the whole Bober insurance things because she's predictable. He knows she didn't want to do so what's the point? There's a reason every time she's over the candles are already lit, and he's got cologne on, and he knows to do this every 11 days. It would do her a little good to stir things up, you know? So now that everyone is all chummy up, Jordan tells Carlo that her boyfriend knew Dr. Cox is in love with her. Kelso already made a decision on Bober ages ago and just wants to give Cox a hard time. Elliot can't get over JD, and she fucked the brains out of JD. Oh boy, what a cliffhanger for the season. And this video is going to be a cliffhanger until I can get to the next video. Feel free to subscribe if you're ready for that. This video is sponsored by breathing. Did you remember to do that? Because you physically can't be watching this video unless you were. Hopefully I made this video before the revival airs. I would have loved to cover the entire show last year had I known about the new season, but I literally just heard about it a month before it airs. Like, why didn't anyone tell me? Scrubs and Futurama were my comfort shows, so I pray it's good. I was hurt by the return of Futurama being rather flaccid. I've heard King of the Hill's been better. If you'd like to watch me cover all the above someday, feel free to subscribe and share some of your favorite memories. Take care and have a wonderful day.
All I heard was lesbian.